Commander Lisa Baker stood at the observation deck of Luna Base, her eyes fixed on the strange object floating in the containment field. The alien probe had appeared seemingly out of nowhere, slipping past Earth's most advanced detection systems like they weren't even there. Now it hung suspended before her, its sleek silver surface reflecting the harsh laboratory lights. "What do you make of it, Admiral Nash?" she asked, turning to the tall, gray-haired man beside her. Admiral Robert Nash had been the driving force behind Earth's defense programs for the past decade. His dedication to developing new technologies had earned him both respect and criticism. Many thought his projects were too costly, too ambitious. Today, those critics would learn just how wrong they were. "It's definitely not from our solar system," Nash replied, his voice grave. "The metallurgy alone is unlike anything we've ever seen, but that's not what worries me." He stepped closer to the containment field, his reflection distorted on the probe's surface. "What worries me is that it found us at all." The room fell silent as technicians worked at their stations, running scan after scan on the mysterious device. Earth had known about alien life for years now, but they'd kept their distance, watching and learning from afar. This probe changed everything. It was the first direct contact, and it hadn't been their choice to make it. A young technician suddenly straightened in her chair. "Commander Baker, we've decoded part of the data storage. There's a message." Baker and Nash exchanged glances before moving to the console. "Play it," Baker ordered. The air above the console shimmered, and a holographic message appeared. The beings in the recording were tall, insectoid creatures with iridescent carapaces. Their mandibles clicked as they spoke, the words translated by the computer in real time. "People of Earth, hear the words of the Galactic Confederation. Your civilization has been observed and found wanting. Your technological advancement threatens the stability of this sector. You have 2 standard solar cycles to submit to Confederation authority and accept our guidance. Refusal will result in your extinction. This is not a negotiation." The message ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. Baker's hands clenched into fists. "They've been watching us." "Yes," Nash agreed, "but they haven't seen everything." He pulled out his secure communicator. "This is exactly the scenario we've been preparing for. Authorization Nash 7 Delta 9. Activate Protocol Void Dark." Deep beneath the lunar surface, lights began to flash in a massive underground hangar. Rows of ships, invisible to almost every known form of detection, stood ready. They were Earth's secret weapon, the Void Dark battle fleet. While the world's attention had been focused on conventional space forces, Nash and his team had been building something revolutionary. "How many ships are ready?" Baker asked as they hurried through the corridor toward the command center. 57 capital ships, 200 destroyers, and over 1,000 support vessels, Nash replied. "All equipped with the Void Dark system. We can have them deployed within 48 hours. Baker shook her head in amazement. "How did you keep this hidden for so long?" Nash allowed himself a small smile. "By using the very technology we were developing. The Void Dark system doesn't just hide ships from enemy sensors, it hides them from everyone. Even most of Earth's military doesn't know these ships exist." They entered the command center, where dozens of officers were already mobilizing. Large screens showed the status of the hidden fleet as it prepared for deployment. "The Confederation thinks they're dealing with a relatively primitive species," Nash continued. "They detected our regular space force, our satellite networks, our defense systems, but they missed what we hid in the dark." Baker approached the main tactical display. "We should strike first," she said. "If they're giving us 2 solar cycles, they're probably already positioning their forces. We need to act before they're ready." Nash nodded in agreement. "My thoughts exactly. That's why I had the fleet placed on standby the moment we detected the probe." He turned to address the command center. "Begin Operation Shadow Wake. Deploy scout ships to these coordinates." He highlighted several points on the galactic map. Within hours, the first ships of the Void Dark fleet slipped away from Luna Base. They moved like ghosts through space, their advanced stealth systems making them virtually non-existent to any observers. These ships represented humanity's greatest technological achievement, the ability to move unseen through the void of space. The scout ships spread out across the solar system, searching for signs of the Confederation's forces. They didn't have to search long. Multiple contacts detected at the edge of the Kuiper Belt, reported Lieutenant Steve Rogers from his station. Large vessels, definitely not human design. They're holding position, probably staging for an attack. How many? Baker asked. At least 30 capital ships, Commander. They must have been there for weeks. Baker studied the tactical display, her mind racing through scenarios. They're not waiting for our answer, she said. They're waiting for reinforcements. The 2 solar cycles isn't a deadline. It's how long they need to gather their invasion fleet. Then we'll have to disappoint them, Nash said. He pulled up the deployment plans they'd practiced countless times in simulation. Commander Baker, I'm giving you operational control of Battle Group 1. Your orders are to perform reconnaissance in force. Find out what we're really dealing with. Baker straightened, feeling the weight of command settle on her shoulders. Yes, sir. She turned to her officers. Prepare my ship for immediate departure. I want the EDF Shadow Strike ready in 30 minutes. As the command center burst into activity, Nash caught Baker's arm. Lisa, he said quietly, remember what makes the Void Dark Fleet special. It's not just about being invisible. It's about being where the enemy least expects you, when they least expect you. We're not just fighting a war. We're rewriting the rules of space combat. Baker nodded, understanding the responsibility she carried. Earth's future would depend not just on their hidden fleet, but on how they used it. Hours later, Baker stood on the bridge of the Shadow Strike, watching as her battle group moved into position. The ships were invisible to both sight and sensors, their presence known only to the linked systems of the Void Dark Fleet. All ships report ready, Commander, her executive officer reported. Baker took a deep breath, thinking of the Confederation ships waiting in the darkness, unaware that humanity's response was already in motion. They thought they were dealing with a primitive species, one that would either surrender or be easily crushed. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Begin Operation Shadow Wake, she ordered. Let's show the Confederation what humanity can do. The Void Dark battle fleet moved silently through space, carrying with it humanity's answer to the Confederation's ultimatum. They had demanded submission or extinction. Humanity had chosen a third option. And in the darkness between the stars, the fleet that would bring extinction to known space began its first hunt. Lieutenant John Carter watched the alien fleet through the Nightshade's advanced imaging system. 37 Confederation warships hung in space, their crews completely unaware that Earth's Void Dark Fleet had them surrounded. The massive alien vessels bristled with weapons, but they might as well have been blind. Status report, Carter ordered, his voice steady despite the tension on the bridge. All systems dark, sir, replied Officer Amy Grant from her station. We're completely invisible to their sensors. The rest of the battle group is in position. Carter nodded. Commander Baker's strategy was bold but simple. Surround the invasion fleet and strike from all directions at once. The Confederation ships were arranged in a standard combat formation, ready to push toward Earth. They never expected an attack from behind their own lines. Message from Commander Baker on the Shadow Strike, Grant announced. The attack begins in 5 minutes. The bridge crew made their final preparations in silence. They had trained for this moment, but simulation was one thing. Real combat was another. The alien ships they faced were each larger than anything humanity had built, packed with weapons that could vaporize a small moon. But size meant nothing if you couldn't hit your target. 2 minutes, Grant counted down. All weapons hot, Void Dark systems operating at peak efficiency. Carter studied the tactical display. The Nightshade was positioned above the alien fleet, one of 20 Earth ships ready to strike. Another group waited below, and 2 more on either side. Commander Baker's Shadow Strike led the rear group, ready to cut off any retreat. 1 minute. He thought about the Confederation's ultimatum, their arrogant demand for Earth's submission. They had expected to find a primitive species, easy to conquer or destroy. Instead, they had walked into a trap. 30 seconds. The alien ships continued their routine patrol patterns, their crews probably bored, maybe even sleeping. Their sensors showed empty space in all directions. 10 seconds. Carter took a deep breath. Weapons control. Target the nearest heavy cruiser. Engineering. Prepare to drop Void Dark on my mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Execute. Across the battlefield, 60 Earth ships dropped their stealth systems simultaneously. The Confederation fleet suddenly found itself surrounded by vessels that appeared from nowhere, weapons already locked and firing. The Nightshade's first salvo struck the alien cruiser's engine section. The massive ship barely had time to register the attack before its power core destabilized. Secondary explosions rippled along its hull as the crew frantically tried to respond to an enemy they couldn't understand. Direct hit, reported the weapons officer. Target's main power is critical. All around them, similar scenes played out. Earth's ships struck with surgical precision, their attacks coordinated through quantum networks that the Confederation couldn't detect or interrupt. Alien vessels exploded or drifted powerless, their crews caught completely off guard. Enemy ships attempting to return fire, Grant reported. But their targeting systems can't get a lock. We're moving too fast between Void Dark jumps. This was another advantage of the stealth system. The ships could switch it on and off rapidly, appearing in one place to fire, then vanishing before the enemy could respond. To the Confederation crews, it must have seemed like fighting ghosts. Message from Commander Baker, Grant called out. All ships, execute attack pattern Delta. They're trying to form a defensive sphere. Carter acknowledged the order. Helm, bring us in close. Let's show them what the Nightshade can do. The Earth ship dove toward the chaotic battle, its Void Dark system pulsing on and off with perfect timing. Each time they appeared, their weapons struck vital systems on enemy vessels. Each time they vanished, confused alien gunners fired at empty space. Sir, Grant's voice was urgent. 3 enemy ships are powering up some kind of mass transit system. They're trying to escape. Not today, Carter replied. Signal the Shadow Strike. Commander Baker needs to close the net. The Confederation ships never made it to transit speed. The Shadow Strike and its group appeared directly in their path, weapons blazing. Caught between two forces, the alien vessels tried to turn, but their large size made them slow and clumsy compared to Earth's agile ships. Enemy flagship is signaling, Grant reported. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it through, Carter ordered. The alien commander's voice filled the bridge, translated by their computers. Unknown vessels, we surrender. In the name of the Confederation, we surrender. Cease fire. Message from Commander Baker to all ships, Grant announced. Cease fire but maintain battle positions. Keep Void Dark ready for immediate reactivation. The shooting stopped, leaving the battlefield littered with destroyed and disabled Confederation ships. Of their original 37 vessels, only 12 remained operational. Earth's fleet hadn't lost a single ship. Send to Commander Baker, Carter ordered. Nightshade reports mission accomplished. No damage, no casualties. All systems operating normally. As the adrenaline of battle faded, the bridge crew began to realize what they had achieved. They had just defeated a force that had expected to conquer their entire planet. More than that, they had proved that humanity's technology was far beyond what the Confederation had believed possible. Hours later, Carter stood in the Nightshade's observation bay, watching as Earth ships secured their prisoners and salvage teams began examining the destroyed alien vessels. Commander Baker's voice came through his communicator. Good work out there, Lieutenant, she said. The Confederation just learned a hard lesson about underestimating humanity. Thank you, Commander, Carter replied. But they'll be back, won't they? With a bigger fleet. Almost certainly, Baker agreed. But now, they know we can hurt them. And they still don't understand how we did it. The Void Dark Fleet will be ready. Carter looked out at the debris field that had once been the invasion force. The Confederation had thought Earth would be an easy conquest. Instead, they had found an enemy capable of striking from nowhere, an enemy their sensors couldn't detect and their weapons couldn't hit. Send a message to their leadership, Baker continued. Tell them this was just a small part of Earth's defense force. Tell them that next time, we won't wait for them to come to us. As Carter relayed the message, he knew the war was far from over. The Confederation would return with more ships, new tactics, desperate attempts to counter the Void Dark technology. But Earth had shown its strength. The hunters had become the hunted. And in the darkness of space, humanity's invisible fleet waited for their next target. Captain Mary Sullivan stood at the helm of the EDF Shadowblade, watching as her crew prepared for their next strike. After the devastating defeat of their initial invasion force, the Confederation had scattered their fleets across dozens of star systems, hoping to avoid another massive loss. It was exactly what Earth's military command had predicted they would do. It was exactly what the Ghost Protocol was designed to exploit. Target coming into range, announced First Officer Ryan Phillips. It's a Confederation supply convoy. 4 cargo ships, 2 escort cruisers. Sullivan smiled. These small raids were perfect for testing engineer Peter Hayes' latest improvements to the Void Dark system. Status of the new stealth modifications. All green, Hayes reported from his station. He had transferred to the Shadowblade specifically to field test his enhancements. The system isn't just hiding us from their sensors anymore. It's actually bending gravity waves around us. We're literally invisible to every known form of detection. Perfect. Sullivan turned to her tactical officer. Bring us in close. Let's show them why they call us ghosts. The Shadowblade slipped through space like a knife through water, utterly undetectable. The Confederation ships continued their journey, their crews relaxed and confident in their sensors. They had no way of knowing that death was already among them. Within firing range, Phillips reported. Ready on your order. Sullivan took a moment to study the enemy formation. After their first defeat, the Confederation had started upgrading their sensor systems, desperately trying to find a way to detect Earth's ships. But Hayes' improvements had kept humanity one step ahead. Execute attack pattern Sierra, she ordered. Target the escorts first. The Shadowblade dropped its stealth just long enough to fire a full spread of missiles at the nearest cruiser. Before the Confederation crews could even register the attack, the Earth ship vanished again, reappearing on the other side of the formation to strike the second escort. Both cruisers exploded within seconds of each other, leaving the cargo ships defenseless. Cargo vessels are powering up their engines, Phillips reported. They're trying to run. Not today, Sullivan said. Broadcast on all frequencies. She waited for the channel to open, then spoke clearly. Confederation vessels, this is Captain Sullivan of the Earth Defense Force. Your escorts are destroyed. Your cargo is forfeit. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded, or we will destroy you. The cargo ships continued their desperate attempt to escape for several more seconds before their engines began to shut down. They had learned that arguing with Earth's ghost ships was pointless. You couldn't fight what you couldn't see. Teams ready for boarding, Phillips announced. We've got good scans of their cargo. Looks like weapon components and raw materials. Perfect. Sullivan nodded. This will set back their military production in this sector by weeks. Signal command and let them know we've got another successful raid. As her crew secured the Confederation ships, Sullivan reviewed the Ghost Protocol's success on her tablet. In the 3 weeks since its implementation, Earth's ships had conducted over 40 raids across Confederation space. They struck without warning, disappeared without trace, and left fear and confusion in their wake. But more importantly, they gathered intelligence. Each raid taught them more about Confederation technology, tactics, and weaknesses. And with each success, Hayes refined the Void Dark system further. "Captain," Hayes called from his station. "I'm picking up some interesting readings from the cargo ship's computers. Looks like communications logs, and they're talking about something called Project Daybreak." Sullivan moved to his station, studying the data. "Can you decrypt it?" "Working on it now." Hayes' fingers flew over his console. It's some kind of emergency research project. They're trying to develop a countermeasure to our stealth technology." "How close are they?" "Not very, from what I can tell. They're still working on basic theories about how we're hiding our ships. But," he paused, frowning at his screen, "they're pooling resources from multiple species. The entire Confederation is focusing on this." Sullivan straightened, her mind racing. "Send everything to command immediately. And get me a secure channel to Admiral Nash." While she waited for the connection, Sullivan watched her crews efficiently stripping the cargo ships of anything valuable. The Ghost Protocol wasn't just about destroying Confederation forces. It was about taking their resources, learning their secrets, and using everything against them. "Channel secure," Phillips announced. "Admiral Nash is ready." Nash's hologram appeared on the bridge. "Captain Sullivan, I take it the raid was successful." "Yes, sir. But we found something concerning. The Confederation has initiated something called Project Daybreak. They're trying to find a way to detect our ships." Nash's expression remained calm, but his eyes narrowed slightly. "Send me everything you found. In the meantime, I want you to step up your raids. If they're getting close to a breakthrough, we need to disrupt their research capabilities as much as possible." "Understood, sir." Sullivan hesitated, then added, "There's something else. The logs suggest the Confederation is starting to fracture. Some species want to negotiate with us, others want to surrender. But the core worlds, especially the Zixithar, are pushing for total war." "As expected," Nash replied. "Fear makes some people reasonable and others desperate. Continue with the Ghost Protocol. Let's see how many more hits they can take before that fracture becomes a break." After the transmission ended, Sullivan returned to supervising the salvage operation. Through the Shadowblade's viewers, she could see her boarding teams efficiently stripping the cargo ships of everything useful. The Confederation crews watched helplessly, their faces showing a mix of fear and awe. "Message from command," Phillips announced. 3 more targets identified in nearby systems. They want us to hit them all within the next 12 hours. Sullivan nodded. This was what the Ghost Protocol was designed for. Rapid, devastating strikes that left the enemy wondering where they would appear next. "Plot the course. We'll hit them one after another. No rest, no mercy." As the Shadowblade prepared to move out, Hayes called out from his station. "Captain, I've decoded more of their communications. The Zixithar, they're not just working on detecting our ships. They're building something else, something big." Sullivan moved to his station, reading the partially decoded messages. Her expression hardened as she understood what she was seeing. "Send this to command immediately. Priority 1. The Confederation wasn't just trying to defend against Earth's ships. They were preparing something that could make stealth technology irrelevant. Something that could threaten not just Earth's fleet, but Earth itself. New orders, everyone," Sullivan announced to her crew. "We're not just gathering intelligence anymore. From now on, every raid targets their research facilities. We find Project Daybreak, and we shut it down." The Shadowblade vanished into the void, leaving the stripped cargo ships behind as a message to anyone who found them. The Ghost Protocol had entered a new phase. It wasn't just about winning battles anymore. It was about survival. And in the darkness between the stars, humanity's invisible fleet continued its relentless hunt, striking fear into the heart of an empire that had thought itself invincible. Commander Daniel Wright stood in the diplomatic chamber aboard the EDF Peacemaker, watching the alien delegates argue among themselves. 3 species of the Confederation had come seeking peace: the Telari with their crystalline bodies, the fur-covered Vex, and the serpentine Naru. Each had grown tired of losing ships to Earth's invisible fleet. "The Zixithar will brand us traitors," hissed the Naru representative. its scales shifting colors with emotion. They control the largest fleet in known space. The HFY's fleet grows smaller each day. The Telari delegate chimed in, light sparkling through its crystal form. Earth's ghost ships hunt them without mercy. We must think of our own survival. Wright let them debate, knowing that fear of Earth's void dark fleet had brought them here. In the 2 months since the Ghost Protocol began, humanity had struck over 200 targets. No Confederation world felt safe anymore. His communicator buzzed quietly. "Commander," came the voice of Science Officer Anna Miller. "You need to see this immediately." "Excuse me, delegates," Wright said politely. "Please continue your discussion. I'll return shortly." He found Miller in her lab, surrounded by holographic displays showing data from their latest raid. Her face was grim. "We've decoded more information about Project Daybreak," she said without preamble. "It's worse than we thought. The HFY aren't trying to detect our ships. They're building a weapon to destroy Earth's sun." Wright's blood ran cold. How is that possible? They've been collecting exotic matter from across the galaxy. Miller brought up a series of technical diagrams. The weapon creates an artificial quantum singularity, a controlled black hole. Once activated, it would cause a chain reaction in any star it targets, leading to an immediate supernova. How close are they to completing it? Too close. Miller's hands shook slightly as she manipulated the displays. Based on these calculations, they could have a working prototype within weeks. Wright immediately opened a secure channel to Earth Command. Admiral Nash's hologram appeared, looking tired but alert. "Commander Wright, I trust our guests are being cooperative." "Sir, we have an emergency." Wright quickly explained what Miller had discovered. Nash's expression grew darker with each word. "This changes everything," the Admiral said when Wright finished. "We can't afford to wait any longer. Signal all ships. Operation Eclipse begins now." Wright nodded grimly. Operation Eclipse was their contingency plan for total war. What about the peace delegates? Keep them talking. The more of their species that abandon the Confederation, the fewer targets we'll have to hit. Nash's hologram flickered. "And Commander, tell Miller good work. Her discovery may have saved Earth." Back in the diplomatic chamber, Wright found the delegates still arguing. The Vex representative, covered in silver fur, was speaking. "The HFY promised us protection, but where are they when Earth's ships appear? We cannot even detect them. How can we fight such an enemy?" "Perhaps you don't have to," Wright interrupted smoothly. "Earth is prepared to offer very generous terms to any species that withdraws from the Confederation immediately." The delegates fell silent, looking at him with various expressions of hope and fear. "The HFY will retaliate," the Naru representative warned. "The HFY," Wright said carefully, "will soon have other concerns." As if on cue, his communicator chimed with news from the fleet. The first strikes of Operation Eclipse were already underway. Earth ships had appeared simultaneously in 12 HFY systems, targeting military installations, shipyards, and research facilities. "What kind of terms?" the Telari delegate asked cautiously. Wright outlined Earth's offer: peace, trade, and protection in exchange for information and resources. He didn't mention that Earth already knew about Project Daybreak, or that the Void Dark Fleet was moving to destroy it. "We must consult with our governments," the Vex representative said. "Of course," Wright agreed, "but I suggest you do so quickly. Events are moving faster than you might think." In his office later, Wright watched the reports coming in from across Confederation space. The Void Dark Fleet was striking everywhere at once, but focusing their heaviest attacks on HFY territories. The militant species had thought themselves safe in their fortress worlds. They were learning otherwise. "Commander," Miller called from the doorway, "we're detecting massive fleet movements. The Confederation is falling apart." She brought up a tactical display showing hundreds of ships fleeing from HFY space. Many belonged to the species that had sought peace with Earth. Others were simply running from what they knew was coming. The Zixethar response. Wright asked, "Exactly what we expected. They're trying to prevent their allies from leaving, even firing on civilian ships." Miller's voice was grim. "They're proving our point for us. Every attack on their own allies pushes more species to seek peace with Earth." Wright nodded. The Zixethar's aggressive response was driving the final wedge into the Confederation's already strained alliances. But they couldn't celebrate yet, not while Project Daybreak remained a threat. His communicator signaled again. This time, it was Captain Sullivan of the Shadowblade. "Commander, we've located the main research facility for Project Daybreak," she reported. "It's in the Zixethar home system, heavily guarded, but with their forces scattered trying to control their allies. They're vulnerable." Wright finished. "What's your status?" 3 battle groups in position, completely undetected. We're ready to strike on your order." Wright glanced at Miller, who nodded confirmation. This was their chance to end the threat to Earth's sun. "Execute the attack," he ordered. "Destroy everything. Leave no trace of Project Daybreak." As Sullivan acknowledged the order, Wright returned to the diplomatic chamber. The delegates were receiving frantic messages from their homeworlds about the Zixethar attacks on civilian ships. "It seems," Wright said quietly, "that the Confederation is showing its true nature. Earth's offer of peace still stands. For now." One by one, the delegates looked at each other, then at Wright. The choice between Earth's protection and the Zixethar's aggression was becoming clearer by the moment. "We accept your terms," the Telari delegate said finally. The others quickly agreed. As Wright began the formal peace process, reports continued to flow in. The Void Dark Fleet was systematically dismantling the Zixethar's military capability. Project Daybreak's research facility had been reduced to atoms, and across known space, more species were abandoning the Confederation every hour. The alliance that had threatened Earth with extinction was shattering. But Wright knew the war wasn't over. The Zixethar would fight to the bitter end, making their defeat as costly as possible. Humanity's invisible fleet would have to finish what it started. And this time, there would be no mercy. Admiral Catherine Pierce stood before the massive holographic display in Earth Command's war room, watching as thousands of ships moved through space. The Void Dark Fleet had never attempted something this ambitious before, a simultaneous strike against every remaining Zixethar military installation. "All battle groups report ready," her aide announced. "Operation Nightfall can begin on your command." Pierce studied the projected attack paths. After the destruction of Project Daybreak, the Zixethar had withdrawn to their core systems, abandoning their former allies to Earth's mercy. Now they waited behind massive defensive lines, believing their concentrated forces could withstand any attack. They were wrong. "Signal Lieutenant Paul Martinez," Pierce ordered. "Is his team in position?" The response came quickly. Martins and his Special Operations Unit had infiltrated the Zixethar homeworld 3 days ago, using modified Void Dark technology to mask their presence. Their mission was crucial to Operation Nightfall's success. "Team is in place," Martins reported, his voice barely above a whisper. "We've located their central military command. Security is heavy, but they still can't detect our stealth systems." "Excellent." Pierce turned to her tactical officers. "Begin the countdown. All ships will drop stealth precisely on schedule." As the countdown began, Pierce thought about how far they'd come. Earth's fleet had evolved from a defensive force into the most feared military power in known space. The Void Dark technology had changed everything. Not just how they fought, but how the galaxy viewed humanity. 5 minutes to synchronization," the tactical officer announced. Pierce opened a channel to all ships. "This is Admiral Pierce. Today we end the Zixethar threat once and for all. They thought to destroy our sun, to wipe out our species. Instead, they will learn the true meaning of extinction. Execute your orders with precision and prejudice." Earth Command out. On the Zixethar homeworld, Martinez led his team through the shadows of the alien city. Their modified stealth suits made them as invisible as the ships in orbit. They moved past armed patrols and security sensors without raising a single alarm. Central Command in sight. Martinez whispered to his team, "Remember, we need their command codes before the fleet strikes. Without those codes, some of their automated defenses might survive." The team acknowledged silently. They had trained for months for this mission, learning Zixthar security protocols and command structure. Now it was time to put that training to use. 2 minutes to synchronization, came the update from Earth Command. Martinez watched a group of Zixthar officers enter the command center through its heavy security doors. His team moved quickly, slipping through behind them before the doors closed. Inside, dozens of alien commanders worked at their stations, monitoring their defense networks. 1 minute. The team split up, moving to their assigned positions. Martinez approached the central command console, where the highest-ranking Zixthar officer stood watching status displays. The alien had no idea that death stood right behind him. 30 seconds. Martinez reached for his specialized data extraction device. One touch to the command console would download everything they needed, but he had to time it perfectly. 10 seconds. 9. 8. Across the room, his team members readied their weapons. The moment they struck, their stealth would drop. They would have seconds to secure the command codes before the room erupted in chaos. 3, 2, 1. Execute. Martinez slapped the device onto the console as his team dropped their stealth. The Zixthar commanders barely had time to register the appearing humans before stun weapons dropped them to the floor. Command codes extracted, Martinez shouted, transmitting to the fleet. Above the planet, thousands of Earth ships suddenly appeared from nowhere, surrounding every major Zixthar military installation. The aliens' defense grid tried to respond, but with their command codes compromised, many systems simply shut down. "All targets acquired," reported Pierce's tactical officer. "Enemy defenses at 40% and failing." "Begin the attack," Pierce ordered. "Show no mercy." The Void Dark Fleet opened fire with everything they had. Orbital defense platforms exploded, military bases vanished in clouds of atomic fire, and shipyards crumbled under relentless bombardment. The Zixthar fleet tried to respond, but Earth's ships were everywhere at once, appearing and disappearing too fast to track. Confederation vessels exploded by the dozens as humanity's weapons found their marks. "Martinez's team is clear," came the report. "They're headed for extraction." Pierce nodded in satisfaction. The Special Operations Team had done their job perfectly. Now it was time to finish this. Status of enemy forces. Ixthar fleet is in disarray, her tactical officer reported. "They've lost over 60% of their ships. The rest are trying to retreat, but our forces have cut off all escape routes." On her display, Pierce watched as Earth ships methodically destroyed everything the Zixthar had built. Their mighty fortresses, their proud warships, their secret research facilities, all of it burned under humanity's revenge. "Admiral," one of her officers called out urgently, "we're detecting massive energy readings from the planet's surface. They're activating some kind of doomsday weapon." Pierce's eyes narrowed. Location: underground facility near their capital. Power signature is similar to Project Daybreak, but smaller scale. They built a prototype, Pierce realized. "Target that facility immediately. All available ships, concentrate fire." The Void Dark Fleet responded instantly. Dozens of ships appeared above the target, their weapons already firing. The ground split open as Earth's bombardment penetrated deep underground, seeking the hidden weapon. "Energy readings are critical," the officer warned. "They're going to." A blinding flash lit up the planet's surface. When it cleared, a massive crater had replaced the facility. But the weapon had been destroyed before it could activate. Damage report: "None, Admiral. We stopped it in time." The tactical officer paused. "Surviving Zixthar ships are powering down their weapons. They're surrendering." Pierce stood silently for a moment, watching as the greatest military power in known space laid down its arms before Earth's fleet. The species that had threatened to destroy humanity's sun now begged for mercy. "Signal all ships," she ordered finally. "Operation Nightfall is complete. Secure the prisoners and begin occupation procedures." As her orders were carried out, Pierce thought about how this would change the galaxy. The Confederation was finished. The species that had made peace with Earth would prosper under humanity's protection. Those who had stood with the Zixathar would face justice. And throughout known space, everyone would remember the lesson: never threaten Earth. Because somewhere in the darkness between the stars, humanity's invisible fleet was always watching, always ready to bring extinction to those who would harm their world. Commander Benjamin Foster stood on the bridge of the EDF Retribution, watching the last free Zixathar world through his view screen. After 6 months of war, this was it. Their final stronghold, the planet Zix Thera Prime. The Void Dark Fleet had chased them across the galaxy, and now there was nowhere left to run. "All battle groups report ready," his tactical officer announced. "The planet is completely surrounded." Foster nodded. 200 Earth ships waited in perfect formation, invisible to every sensor on the planet below. Around him, the bridge crew worked in focused silence. They all knew what was at stake. Message from Captain Susan Reynolds on the diplomatic vessel Starbridge. His communications officer said, "She's ready to begin negotiations when ordered." "Very well." Foster took a deep breath. "Drop stealth on my mark. Let them see exactly what they're facing." The countdown began. Foster thought about how far they'd come since that first alien probe had appeared with its threats of extinction. The Confederation had thought Earth would be an easy conquest. Instead, humanity had turned their own arrogance against them. 3, 2, 1, mark. All around Zixus Thera Prime, Earth's ships appeared simultaneously. The planet's defense systems suddenly lit up as they detected the massive fleet that had materialized from nowhere. Panic spread through the Zixathar communications channels. "Open a channel to their planetary command," Foster ordered. "Let's end this." The main screen flickered to life, showing the face of Supreme Commander Kazath, leader of the last Zixathar forces. The alien's armored carapace showed signs of battle damage, and its compound eyes reflected the fear that had spread through its entire species. "This is Commander Foster of the Earth Defense Force," Foster announced clearly. "Your situation is hopeless. Surrender now, and your people will be spared." "Never." Kazath's mandibles clicked in anger. "We are the Zixathar. We ruled this galaxy before your species learned to make fire. We will not bow to primitives." "Look around you, Supreme Commander," Foster replied calmly. "Your empire is gone. Your allies have abandoned you. Your mighty fleets are destroyed. All that remains is this one world, and we can take it whenever we choose." As if to emphasize his point, the Void Dark Fleet began to pulse their stealth systems. Ships vanished and reappeared in new positions, demonstrating how easily they could strike from any angle. The display was carefully choreographed to maximize psychological impact. "You attacked our world," Foster continued. "You threatened to destroy our sun. And now you've seen the consequence of that choice. But it doesn't have to end in extinction. Captain Reynolds is ready to discuss terms." Kazath's compound eyes shifted, watching the Earth ships dance through space around his world. "Terms? What terms could there be? You've already destroyed everything we built." "Not everything." Captain Reynolds' voice cut in as her image appeared on the screen. "Your people can survive under Earth's protection. Your knowledge and technology can still benefit the galaxy. But first, you must surrender. Completely and unconditionally." The Zixathar leader's mandibles worked silently for a moment. Foster could see the internal struggle. Pride versus survival, hatred versus fear. "And if we refuse?" Kazath asked finally. Foster pressed a button on his command chair. Around the planet, 50 more Earth ships dropped their stealth, revealing the second wave of the attack force. Each one carried enough firepower to level a continent. "Then we finish what you started," Foster said simply. "The choice is yours. But choose quickly. We've given you more time than you gave Earth." The silence stretched for what seemed like hours. Foster could see Kazath consulting with other Zigzathar leaders off-screen, their chittering voices just barely audible. Finally, the Supreme Commander turned back to face them. We will discuss your terms." Captain Reynolds took over the negotiations while Foster maintained the fleet's position around the planet. He watched as more Earth ships arrived hourly, summoned from across former Confederation space. By the time the formal surrender was signed, over 500 human vessels surrounded Zigzathar Prime. "It's done," Reynolds reported several hours later. "They've accepted all conditions. Earth will oversee their disarmament and reconstruction. Their technology will be studied, their weapons destroyed, and their people restricted to their homeworld until we determine they're no longer a threat." Foster nodded. It was more mercy than they had planned to show the Zigzathar originally, but humanity had proved its point. There was no need for extinction. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Stand down from combat stations, but maintain stealth readiness. The war is over, but we're not letting our guard down yet." As the fleet began to secure the planet, Foster received a transmission from Admiral Nash back on Earth. The Admiral's hologram appeared on the bridge, looking tired but satisfied. "Well done, Commander," Nash said. "The last holdout has fallen. How does it feel to end a war?" "Strange, sir," Foster admitted. 6 months ago, they were going to destroy us. Now we're deciding their fate." "That's the power of the Void Dark Fleet," Nash replied. "Not just the technology, but what it represents. We prove that humanity won't just survive in this galaxy. We'll thrive." Foster looked at his tactical display, where hundreds of Earth ships now moved openly through space. The Void Dark technology had changed everything, transforming humanity from potential victims into the most powerful force in known space. "What happens now, sir?" "Now we rebuild," Nash said. "The friendly species we protected will become allies. The hostile ones will be contained, and Earth's fleet will ensure peace through strength." He paused. "The galaxy will remember this, Commander. They'll remember how their greatest empire fell to ships they couldn't even see." After the transmission ended, Foster stood at his viewport, watching shuttles move between the fleet and the planet below. The Zigzathar were already beginning their disarmament, supervised by Earth's forces. Their pride was broken, their power shattered. "Message from Command," his communications officer announced. "They're naming this the Void Dark War. It'll be recorded as the shortest and most decisive interstellar conflict in known history." Foster nodded. It was an appropriate name. Earth's invisible fleet had brought extinction to the old order of space, replacing it with something new. Something that humanity would shape. And in the darkness between the stars, the ships that had changed the galaxy continued their eternal watch, ready to defend Earth against any who would threaten it. The legend of the Void Dark Fleet would echo through time, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful force was the one you couldn't see until it was too late. The war was over. The void was silent once more. But humanity's guardians would always be there, invisible, waiting, protecting the peace they had won through darkness and fear.